Humans invented weapons so deadly, their own bodies became obsolete. A spear could tear through ribs. A stone blade could empty a body of blood in minutes. For the first time, human intelligence had created something the human body was never designed to survive. So someone tried the only solution they had. They wrapped a living human inside the skin of a dead animal. If that hide slowed one spear, softened one blow, or turned death into a wound, the idea survived. Then humans added wood, then bone, then bronze. Eventually they built moving fortresses around their bodies. But every time armor became stronger, weapons evolved to break it. And every time weapons became deadlier, armor had to change again, or the person wearing it died. So how did a piece of animal skin become a full suit of steel? The answer begins when humans realized their greatest invention had become their greatest threat. The earliest armor almost certainly vanished. Leather rots, wood burns, plant fiber decays, bone breaks. Archaeology preserves metal far better than the materials used before it, creating an illusion. The oldest armor we can find is not necessarily the first armor anyone wore. A hunter already knew animal skin resisted thorns, teeth, and rough ground. Several layers could also make a blade work harder. Armor did not need to stop every weapon. It only needed to change the result. A spear entering 4 inches might kill. The same spear stopped after 1 inch might leave a wound the body could survive. That difference was enough to make the idea worth repeating. But covering the entire body created a new problem. Protection has weight. Too much hide makes a person hot, slow, and tired. Thick material protects the chest but restricts twisting. Heavy leg coverings reduce speed. A hood blocks hearing and vision. From the beginning, armor was a compromise between two ways of dying. Too little protection, and the weapon reaches the body. Too much protection, and the body cannot move away from the weapon. The first major solution may not have been worn at all. It was held. A shield placed one object between the fighter and danger. A branch, woven mat, hide stretched over a frame, or solid wooden board could stop or deflect a strike while leaving most of the body uncovered. The earliest shields rarely survive, so nobody can identify the first one. But humans already carried wood, stretched hides, and blocked blows with whatever was available. A shield solved the weight problem by concentrating protection in one arm. It could move toward the threat. It could change angle. It could hide the torso from arrows. It could be dropped when speed mattered more. But shields had limits. They protected mainly from the direction they faced. They occupied a hand. They became less useful if the fighter was surrounded, fell to the ground, or needed both hands for a weapon. So the body itself still needed help. The head was probably one of the first places worth reinforcing. A cut on the arm might end a fight. A blow to the skull could end a life instantly. Leather caps, thick felt, wood, horn, bone, and later metal could soften impact or make a weapon glance away. One of the strangest surviving helmet traditions came from Bronze Age Greece. Mycenaean warriors used helmets reinforced with curved pieces of boar-tusk sewn onto a leather or felt base. Think about the labor inside one helmet. Wild boars had to be hunted. Their tusks were removed, cut, drilled, shaped, and attached in rows. A complete helmet required several animals. The finished object protected the head, but it also announced something to everyone who saw it. The wearer clearly had access to dangerous hunts, skilled labor, and valuable resources. Armor was becoming more than survival equipment. It was becoming power you could see. Then metal changed the scale of what humans could build. Bronze was harder and more resistant than ordinary hide, but it was expensive. Copper and tin had to be mined, transported, traded, melted, and shaped by specialists. Covering a person in bronze required an economy capable of feeding workers who were not farming, moving materials across long distances, and concentrating wealth in the hands of a few warriors. One dramatic example comes from Dendra in Greece. Around the 15th century BCE, a Mycenaean warrior was buried with bronze armor covering the torso, shoulders, neck, and lower body. Large plates wrapped the chest. Additional pieces guarded the arms and throat. It looks less like clothing than a human-shaped fortress. The Dendra armor proves that people were building extensive metal protection more than 1,000 years before the medieval knight, but it also exposes the problem armorers would fight for the next 3,000 years. The human body bends. A solid shell does not. A fighter must breathe, twist, raise the arms, turn the head, mount an animal, run across uneven ground, and recover after falling. The better the shell protected, the more it risked trapping the person inside it. So humans broke the shell into pieces. Scale armor used many small plates attached in overlapping rows to a backing of leather or textile. Each plate covered the edge of the one below it, like tiles on a roof or scales on a fish. This design divided one difficult task into hundreds of smaller ones. Small plates were easier to cast or cut than one perfect breastplate. A damaged scale could be replaced. The overlaps could deflect cuts. The backing allowed the garment to bend, And the plates could be made from whatever a society had: bronze, iron, horn, hardened leather, rawhide, or bone. Scale armor spread across the Middle East, Mediterranean, Asia, and beyond in many different forms, but it had weaknesses. A weapon striking upward could catch beneath an overlap. The backing could tear. Hundreds of attachment points could fail. More scales meant more labor, more maintenance, and more weight. Another solution removed the backing. Lamellar armor used small plates laced directly to one another in horizontal rows. The plates created their own flexible structure. Versions appeared across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, using leather, bronze, iron, and bone. Lamellar worked especially well for mounted fighters. A rider needed to twist, draw a bow, handle reins, and absorb glancing attacks without wearing one rigid shell. Rows of plates moved with the torso while still spreading force across a larger area. Chinese armor traditions developed sophisticated defenses using lacquered leather, rawhide, bronze, and iron plates. Lacquer helped stiffen and protect organic material from moisture while creating a smoother surface that could help blows glance away. Now armor was not one invention moving along one path. Different societies were answering the same question with local materials. How much of the body can we protect without making the body useless? Then someone created armor from thousands of holes. Mail was built from interlocking metal rings, each ring connected to several others, forming a flexible mesh that hung like heavy cloth. Its precise origin remains debated, but mail was in use more than 2,000 years ago and became one of the most successful armor systems in history. At first glance, the design looks ridiculous. Why cover the body with metal full of openings? Because the rings were smaller than the cutting edge trying to pass through them. A sword had to break, deform, or force apart linked rings before it could reach skin. Mail was excellent against slashing attacks. It bent with the body, protected joints, and could be repaired ring by ring. A long shirt covered the torso, shoulders, and upper legs without requiring solid plates shaped around every movement. But mail did not erase impact. A club, mace, arrow, or heavy spear could drive force through the rings even when the metal did not break. The skin might remain uncut while bone beneath it fractured. That is why mail worked best over padding. A thick textile garment absorbed force, prevented rings from pressing directly into flesh, and added protection against cuts and projectiles. Armor was becoming a layered system: soft material inside, flexible metal over it, a shield outside both. No single defense did every job. The Romans used multiple kinds of armor. Mail, scale, helmets, shields, and segmented iron defenses appeared in different periods and units. This matters because armor history is often shown as a straight ladder. Hide became bronze. Bronze became mail. Mail became plate. Then guns made armor disappear. Real history was far messier. Old designs survived because they still worked. New ones appeared beside them. Wealthy soldiers wore metal, while poorer fighters relied on textile, hide, and shields. Climate, enemy weapons, battlefield tactics, available resources, and social rank all changed what counted as the best protection. The strongest armor was not always the best armor. The best armor was the armor a person could afford, repair, carry, and actually fight in. By medieval Europe, mail had become a major defense. Long shirts covered the torso and upper limbs. Mail hoods protected the head and neck. Padded garments sat underneath. Then weapons placed more pressure on the body. Powerful bows, crossbows, lances, and heavy close combat weapons made certain areas especially vulnerable. Armorers began adding rigid plates over knees, elbows, shins, hands, shoulders, and chest. Plate did not suddenly replace mail. It grew on top of it. Small pieces became larger. Straps held them in place. Hinges, sliding rivets, and overlapping sections allowed movement. By the 15th century, European armorers could enclose a fighter from head to toe in articulated steel. And despite the myth, a well-made field harness did not turn a knight into a helpless statue. A complete suit commonly weighed roughly 20 to 25 kilograms, distributed across the entire body. Modern soldiers and firefighters often carry comparable loads. The wearer could walk, run, climb, mount a horse, fall, and stand again because the armor was built around human movement. The genius was not simply making steel hard. It was making steel move. At the shoulder, plates slid across one another. At the elbow and knee, shaped joints bent while protecting gaps. At the waist, overlapping sections allowed the torso to turn. Mail and fabric covered places rigid plates could not completely seal. Curved surfaces helped deflect weapons rather than receiving every strike directly. A point that glanced away transferred less force than one that stopped against a flat plate. A full suit looked like a solid metal body. It was actually hundreds of carefully managed compromises. Vision against facial protection, breathing against a closed helmet, thickness against weight, coverage against heat, rigidity against movement, and heat mattered more than modern viewers imagine. Armor traps warmth. Fighting produces enormous effort. A warrior could become exhausted before an enemy landed a clean strike. In hot climates, lighter armor could outperform a stronger suit simply because the wearer remained functional longer. This is why humans never discovered one final armor design. Every battlefield changed the equation. Mounted archers valued flexibility. Infantry behind large shields could leave some areas lighter. Elite cavalry could afford expensive metal. Soldiers crossing deserts or mountains paid for every extra piece in sweat and energy. Armor also became a language. A polished breastplate, decorated helmet, lacquered scale coat, or distinctive pattern could identify rank and allegiance before anyone spoke. Leaders used armor to appear larger, richer, and almost superhuman. Some pieces served ceremony as much as combat. Protection became status. The richest armor defended the wearer while announcing exactly where the most valuable person stood. That created another contradiction. Armor could frighten enemies and inspire allies. It could also tell every archer where to aim. So armor protected more than flesh. It protected reputation, hierarchy, and the story a society told about its warriors. Long after a battle ended, armor remained in tombs, temples, paintings, and collections because protection had become memory. It also changed behavior. A protected fighter could move closer, stay in combat longer, and survive strikes that would have removed an unarmored person immediately. Groups with better armor could hold formation, absorb volleys, and turn survival into political power. That created an arms race. Weapons evolved to defeat armor. Armor evolved to defeat weapons. Narrow points targeted gaps. Maces and hammers delivered crushing force. Polearms hooked limbs, concentrated energy, and attacked joints. Armorers thickened plates, changed angles, reinforced vulnerable areas, and added layers. Then gunpowder accelerated the race. Early firearms did not instantly make armor useless. Some breastplates were thickened to resist bullets, and surviving pieces sometimes carry proof marks from test shots. But stronger guns demanded heavier protection. Eventually, covering the entire body in bullet-resistant metal became too exhausting and expensive for ordinary battlefield use. Full armor shrank. Hands, limbs, and faces became less protected. Helmets and breastplates remained because the skull, heart, and lungs were still worth saving. Armor did not disappear. It retreated to the places where protection gave the greatest return. Then it changed material again. Modern body armor uses steel, ceramics, aramid fibers, polyethylene, and other engineered materials. A ballistic plate does not resemble a boar-tusk helmet or a scale coat, but the logic is ancient. Use a hard layer to deform or stop the threat. Use flexible or energy-absorbing material behind it. Protect the organs most likely to determine survival. Accept weight where it matters. Leave movement where it cannot be sacrificed. Vehicle armor follows the same argument at a larger scale. Protection, angle, weight, mobility, and cost. The first person who wrapped hide around the body would recognize the problem instantly. Armor has never made humans invincible. It changes probabilities. It turns fatal wounds into survivable wounds. It buys seconds. It gives the body another chance. That is how humans invented armor. Not in one workshop, not in one civilization, and not in one moment. They began with barriers held in the hand. Then hides and layered cloth covered skin. Helmets protected the head. Bronze formed shells. Small scales created flexible surfaces. Laced plates became lamellar armor. Interlocking rings became mail. Articulated steel enclosed the body. Firearms pushed protection back toward the head and chest. Modern fibers and ceramics continued the same experiment. Every version answered the weapon of its time. Return to the first hunter. A stone blade cuts through the outer hide but slows before reaching deeply into the ribs. The hunter falls, survives, and later examines the damaged layer. The hide did not stop the attack completely. It changed the result, so the next layer becomes thicker. Another piece covers the shoulder. A wooden barrier moves into the hand. Someone reinforces the head. Generations later, metal replaces bone, rings replace solid sheets, and moving plates turn a person into a machine of steel. But the idea never changes. Place something expendable between the human body and the thing trying to destroy it. Humans invented weapons so deadly that their own bodies became obsolete. Armor was the invention that made the body useful again.